Alright guys, today I'll be reviewing Wildcat's Revenge finally. This is the brand new RMC hybrid coaster at Hershey Park, and let me just say, I'm just gonna say it right now. It's my number one coaster overall. It's not really close, and I'm gonna explain why today, alright? And before you guys say anything, yeah, I know there's gonna be no off-ride footage, no POVs, nothing in this video, just because, I don't have a studio right now, so I didn't really have a studio in the first place, but, I can't edit anything, so it's just going to be face-to-face, one long take. This might be a terrible video, but let's see how it goes. So let's start off with the presentation. This ride has an incredible presentation, let's just say that. It honestly looks like the tallest ride in the park. It is absolutely massive. You see it like when you're driving up to the park alongside the road, going into the parking lot. It looks huge. And I think that's because it's on top of the hill. It actually looks way bigger than Candemonium or Sky Rush in person. And like in terms of elevation, it might be higher than those two. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's a huge ride. And the color scheme is amazing too. You've got red track, which I obviously love. You've got black cross ties. And of course, you got that truss, which is also black, and that looks phenomenal. I want to see more of these trusses. You got Iron Gwazi, Air Force One. These things look amazing, and seeing one in person really, yeah, I want more of these. And also, I was surprised how well all these blended in with the brown wood supports. I thought it would kind of look messy, but it actually looks really cool. But let's go over the queue line a bit. There's no real theming in the queue. I do like that when you're exiting the ride, it has a piece of Wildcat's track over it, like the old wood track. So that was kind of cool to see. The entrance sign, I love the entrance sign. Looks incredible. It kind of has, I don't really know what it's called. It kind of glows almost. And then what am I saying? The naming or the logo or whatever across the station also has this kind of glowing effect. And it looks especially cool at night, which I'll get into night rides a bit later. But yeah, throughout the queue, you're not going to see any theming. It's just a big cattle pen, really. And then you get into the last part of the queue, and you get a great view of Wildcat's Revenge. That's where I took my shots, where I'll probably post some more shorts from there. But yeah, you're not going to see any footage of that in this video, unfortunately. But yeah, you get great shots, great views of Wildcat's Revenge from there. And then you have to put all your stuff in a locker. But these are free lockers. These are your Steel Vengeance, Velocicoaster style lockers, which I really like. They're really easy to work. You just punch in like a code, and yeah, you put your phone, whatever you need in there. Now, I will say, do not try to be an idiot and sneak anything up. If you want to bring your phone, your keys, whatever on the ride, don't do that, because they will catch you and they'll send you back down to the free lockers. And I can't tell you how many times that happened, where people were just being idiots and not putting their stuff in the lockers. Fortunately for me, I usually don't have anything on me, but when I did bring my phone in the line to get video, I just put it in the locker because it was easy, and you get it right when you walk out, which is really convenient. It's double-sided, so no one's going to take anything from you. And I don't know, there were a surprising amount of people that started like arguing with the ops over their hat not being able to ride, or some girl's fanny pack or whatever not being able to come on the ride, which, I mean, that's going to slow up operations. That's helping absolutely no one. So just put your stuff in the locker. So now once you get up into the actual station, this might be my favorite station for a ride, period. I know that may sound really weird given all the Disney and Universal coasters and whatever, but hear me out. You've got these like paintings of the Wildcats at the back, they look really cool. And then you've got possibly the best station music I've ever heard. It is perfect to get you hyped up for the ride, for the most intense coaster I've ever been on. I don't know, if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. Or just wait till you're in person so you could hear it, because it's something else. It really gets you hyped up to ride this thing. And the ops are incredible here. these might be the best ops I have ever seen in my life, all right? Like, these guys are hustling, especially at night when, everyone's hyped up for last rides in the night and all that. These ops are hustling. These are truly Disney level ops right here. And, I really appreciate that they're not staple happy. I have Darien Lake as my home park, and all the ops there are way too staple happy. It's really annoying. You basically can't get any room on any of the rides there, or at a lot of parks really. King's Dominion, Dollywood was kind of staple happy, So it's nice to see some ops that will actually let you get a little bit of room. But anyways, once you get out of the station, and also one more thing I'll say is the Zero car is definitely my favorite of any coaster I've ever seen. I mean, you have those 3 cats bursting outside the front of it, and I know some people complain about them, like, looking to the right or whatever, but I don't know, who cares? They look really cool. But now let's get into the ride experience. You're going to start off with a triple down, which is the pre-lift, easily the best pre-lift I've ever experienced. You get great airtime on all of these, actually ejector, I would say, especially if you're in the back. In the front, you're not going to get ejector, I would say, but still really good airtime, especially for a pre-lift. You're not usually getting anything on a pre-lift. But yeah, anyways, once you're out of the pre-lift, you're going to start up your lift hill. And if you're lucky, you're going to get a duel, which I actually didn't get a duel, but I did witness a duel, and it looked really cool seeing the other train fly over the fourth inversion, the second 0G rule, while the first train was going up the lift hill. And something about the lift hill is, you might notice in the queue line, it starts up really slow, like slower than Steel Curtain's lift hill. It's insane. But then halfway through, it'll speed up. That's just because, nothing's going wrong. It's just the block zones, the way they're set up. It's 4 block zones, 3 trains, and yeah, it's basically just jogging the lift hill until the 3rd train or whatever the train is on the block break before unload. I don't know, it's really confusing, but basically the train on the final breaks has to go into the unload station before the train on the lift hill can start going full speed up the lift hill. That way the train doesn't have to completely stop at the top of the lift hill, so it'll just jog up the lift hill. Anyways, I sounded like El Toro Ryan for a minute there, but yeah, anyways, you go down the first drop. This is a really good first drop, about on par with like Wicked Cyclone's first drop, which is really good, but this is probably the weakest element on the ride, alright? A solid, probably top 15 first drop I've experienced is the weakest element on the ride. That includes the pre-lift. Like, that's absurd. Then after this drop, you're going to experience some mild positive Gs. Then you're going to go into the underflip. And you actually get a little bit of airtime up front on this underflip. It's mostly about the whip and the head choppers, which I will say there are a lot of head choppers on this ride. So that's really cool, especially if you have your hands up. But also something to note on the valleys, this is an RMC, so you can use those shin guards to your advantage, which basically if you have a good amount of room, you can like press your legs up against the shin guards and it'll keep the lap bar up the entire ride, which I definitely use to my advantage. It's really helpful if you want some room throughout the entire ride. But yeah, in the front, you get a little pop of airtime going into it and crazy laterals throughout it. In the back, it's not quite as extreme, but still really cool. And yeah, this valley is going to dish out not really anything, but after this, it's just complete mayhem. So first element you're going to do, like, after the underflip is the straight ejector hill. This thing's absurd. I didn't know airtime could get this strong. And for it to be this sustained, the first drop, you thought the first drop was great. It's solid ejector on the first drop. This is a complete notch above anything I've ever experienced, including airtime moments like the Big 4 on El Toro, Sky Rush on the other side of the park, Steel Vengeance, Lightning Rod, all these crazy coasters for airtime. None of them even come close to what Wildcat's Revenge does, especially on this sustained hill, where you have that same caliber of just wild ejector airtime you're going to get throughout the rest of the ride, but sustained for like 2 or 3 seconds. Oh my gosh, like, especially if you have room, your thighs are going to be bruised after just one ride on this thing, let me tell you. But it doesn't stop there with this element, because there's another head chopper at the end of it. So after that crazy element, the next valley doesn't really do much. The valleys on this ride are all right. They're not complete wastes because you have a ton of speed going through them. But yeah, they don't dish out a ton of positives, but don't worry, there's one element in particular that dishes out some good positives, which I'll get to later. But after that absolutely wild sustained camelback, you're going to go through a little step up, and this is outer banked, and this again gives the strongest like moment of airtime you could imagine, stronger than anything on Steel Vengeance, Lightning Rod, any of those. And this is one of the mid-tier elements on the ride. It's crazy. Then you head into another mid-tier element on the ride. It's the first wave turn. This is also a crazy element, just wild sideways airtime, sends you diagonal actually, and just absolutely chucks you up out of your seat. Not very sustained, and a little bit weaker than the second outer bank, which I'll get to in a minute, but still an amazing element. After this, you're going to go through definitely the best stall I've ever experienced. This stall gives you great airtime going into it, actually. It's really violent the way it flips you into and out of it, so you get airtime going into it and airtime out of it, which is really crazy. And of course, it's just a perfect 0G feeling going throughout it. It's really perfect hang time and perfect how it morphs from crazy ejector airtime to sustained hang time. And of course, throughout the entire element, you have crazy head choppers. And now after that, you're going to go through the best element on the ride, in my opinion. I don't know, it could change day to day, but right now, I feel like the best element on this ride is the second wave turn. This is by far the best element on any coaster, period. You've got pretty much the strongest airtime I've ever felt on any ride. It's sustained, and it's diagonal airtime, just shooting you out and just pretty much breaking your back. That's pretty much what this ride wants to do to you, is like kill you in every way possible. And if it didn't have restraints, it would definitely do that. But anyways, after that crazy element, you're going to hit another valley that doesn't do a whole lot, but maybe dishes out something when it's running fast. And then you're going to hit the double down. Now, everyone raves about the second part of this where you get crazy laterals, and I like the second moment of this double down, but I want to talk about the step up into the double down, because that is one strong moment of airtime. If I had to pick one like moment that's wow, this is strong, it would be the step up into the double down. And the great part about it, which I'll discuss a little bit later, is the step up into this is perfect in any row, even in the back, which is kind of surprising. And then, of course, you got the double down, great airtime on the first one. Not quite as good airtime on the second part of the double down, but still crazy. Plus, you got that lateral kink, which absolutely sends you flying to the right and almost feels like a more exaggerated version of that one hill towards the end of Cyclone at Luna Park. And yeah, it's just phenomenal. Then you're going to go through my favorite inversion of all time. This is the first 0G rule on this ride. I don't know what it is about this inversion. I looked at it, I saw a mediocre inversion, just kind of filler almost. But what I got was something completely different, let me tell you. So basically, what this inversion does, you go up into it. It doesn't start inverting till you're almost at the peak of it. And then once you do start inverting, you get a wild ejector airtime pop. I don't know how it does it, but you get one of the craziest airtime pops you'll ever get. And then you have head choppers and all this while you're doing it. And you get some of the most violent laterals combined with this airtime you'll ever experience. It's truly an element that is something else. It's one of the highlights on this ride, and if you're one of the best elements on Wildcat's Revenge, you're one of the best elements, period. That's for sure. After this, you're going to go through the only element on the ride that dishes out really strong positive Gs. It's this high overbank turn. I was kind of mad they didn't do like an outer bank or something originally, but as it warmed up, I saw like how intense this turn really was. I was close to graying out pretty much every time. And yeah, it's a really nice change of pace from the airtime, just getting pummeled with positive Gs like this. And after this, you're going to go through the fourth 0G roll, kind of just a weaker version of the third, but still an amazing inversion, probably top 5 inversion I've ever experienced still, even if it's not quite as good as the first 0G roll. After this, you're going to enter the finale. The first hill is kind of a disappointment. It's kind of on par with like a mediocre RMC ejector hill, which is still great, by the way. Like that's not a bad thing, being a mediocre RMC ejector hill. But it's just the two after this are so stupid that these exist. I mean, you can't describe, I really can't describe how strong these ejector hills feel, because, I could, like on any other coaster, basically, I could be, this is like El Toro level here, and it feels like the Rolling Thunder Hill or whatever. Here, there's nothing as strong as these, really. It's very quick, very violent ejector, but again, like, there's nothing as strong as these final two hills, I feel like. And you get laterals going throughout them, because the first one of these final two hills is outer banked, which is wild. Then you have a crazy turn going into the brakes, and the turn is also an airtime hill, so you get violent ejector on that while getting violent laterals. I mean, it really doesn't get crazier than these final two hills. And then you hit the brakes with a full head of steam, and you're left speechless. At least I was. Now, something I want to talk about besides just the elements, besides the smoothness, which it's a butter smooth ride, not a hint of a rattle anywhere, but what I really want to talk about is the pacing. All these elements on their own are phenomenal. However, what really makes this ride shine, and what makes it a whole notch above anything else I've ever done, is the pacing. Like, I've seen rides with good pacing. There's I-305, Lightning Rod, there's a lot of rides with good pacing. Phoenix at Knoebels is really good, like, in its own way. But this ride, it basically feels like they went into Planet Coaster, turned off gravity, turned off friction, and, like, turned off everything that could make a ride slower, and just let it rip. That's basically what this thing feels like. I'm pretty much at a loss for words just trying to explain it. Because, I mean, especially at night, when it's really warmed up, you watch it fly through the course, it doesn't slow down over everything. Even on, like, El Toro, I'll bring up again, because why not? Over its camelbacks, the Rolling Thunder Hill, all this, it'll slow down a good bit at the apex. Even the strongest moments of airtime on the planet slow down at the apex. This thing, it just doesn't slow down. There's not a single moment where it feels like you were going slower than you were at the start of the ride. It feels like you pick up speed throughout the entire ride, and that's why there really isn't a bad row on this. Basically, just choose whatever row has the shortest wait, in my opinion. I'd go towards the back just so I could get the first drop, but that's not even really a big deal because it's the weakest part of the ride. So really just sit anywhere you'd like, because it's going to feel pretty much identical in any row, because the speed's pretty much identical in any row. You're just going to haul over every single hill, every single inversion in any row, pretty much no difference, which in a way kind of sucks, because, I mean, there's that novelty of the back or the front row or whatever that you don't have on this ride, but who cares? Like, you could go in row 6, and this ride would be just as good as if you went in, like, row 11 or whatever. It's truly unlike anything else I've ever seen. And now let's talk about the night rides, because I got 4 of these at the end of the night last Saturday. It was open till 10 p.m., so I got my Skyrush night ride, and then I head over here for 4 on this, and night rides on this look incredible. Hershey Park knows this thing's not in the middle of the nowhere, like the Beast or Voyage or anything like that, so they do a perfect job with the lighting. This is supposed to be like an ominous lighting package, and they execute it perfectly. You got the red lights on the lift hills that constantly change, like in different patterns and all this, and they look phenomenal. And then you've also got this like spotlight kind of following the train, like towards the, I guess, the left side of the course when you're staring at it from the pathway, right side of the course when you're staring at it from the parking lot. So, I mean, that looks really cool. I'll definitely do an off-ride footage video of it at night so you guys can see that from my camera. But yeah, it's like this red spotlight that follows the train at night, and it's really cool because you go from just pitch black throughout like the underflip, the first ejector hill, to having this red light shining down on you throughout the step up, the first outer bank, or the first wave turn, sorry, and then the stall. It's really cool to see. And of course, it's an absolute spectacle. And obviously, it's running a lot faster at night. It really is a huge difference from night to day, because during the day, I'm not going to lie, my first ever ride on this, first thing in the morning, I thought it was like upper mid tier. Like I had it one above Twisted Timbers in my ranking. Like I pretty much had a similar opinion to this as everyone else. But then I feel like something a lot of these coaster enthusiasts who say it's kind of upper mid tier RMC don't do is they don't do night rides and let it warm up a ton. Because this ride, even 3 hours later than when I first rode it, was a completely different beast. This was like, okay, this might be my new number one. And then, of course, later at night, it was easily my number one, way better than anything else I've ever done. So definitely give it a chance to warm up. Definitely do it later. Do it at night if you can. So definitely show up to dark nights. I know I will be at some point. So yeah, overall, what am I going to give Wildcat out of 1,000? Obviously a 1,000. It's pretty much a perfect roller coaster. And there's only two coasters I'd consider to be perfect. That's this and Big Bear Mountain, which Big Bear Mountain's perfect for a family coaster, but I mean, it's perfect for a family coaster. It's not even in my top 50. But this thing, you know, there's a ton of rides that try to be the coaster, the perfect coaster, the one everyone considers their number one. I mean, you have Steel Vengeance, you had Fury 325, but this didn't even try to be that. And yet Joe Draves created, in my opinion, probably the best coaster in the world. The only other one I could see beating this is Airy Force 1, which it probably will be, I'm not going to lie, because if this thing was aggressive, and everyone says Airy Force 1 is even more aggressive, like, that's kind of terrifying to think about. So I hope to get out there next year, but anyways, let me know what you guys think of Wildcat's Revenge. Let me know if you guys like it as much as me. Did you get night rides or anything? Let me know what you guys thought of this video down in the comments below. It was probably a disaster, but whatever. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.